foreign places. Talk about taking over. We ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one courage, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Big mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake.
The Beckles, our Municipality Service Officer, Ms. Dacia Fraser, Internal Audit, Ministry of Local Government, Mr. Dotson, the Acting Treasurer of Mayor and City Council, Georgetown, Treasurer Douglas, sorry, Ms. Candace Nelson, TC, Mayor and City Council. I was supposed to have Ms.
Could those individuals that you call just indicate by raising your hand? Yes, go back.
I'm supposed to have Mr. Ron McCalman, former treasurer of Georgetown Mayor and City Council, online. Not sure if he is there.
Could you please indicate if you're online, sir? What's his name?
Mr. Ron McCalman.
Mr. McCalman? Is he online? He's not.
I was just informed that he cannot join because he is away on a medical issue overseas. I'm supposed to have Mr. Van West Charles, former CEO of GWI, online. Not sure if he's there either. And I'm also expected to have Mr. McGarrell, the former permanent secretary.
He's online. Yes.
Is my team.
Okay, thank you very much, PS. Members, we have 10 paragraphs before us. 403 to 412.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
Just for clarity, I don't know if I believe that our colleague on the other side is an advisor to the ministry, and I know that based on the precedents that we have been following since the beginning of this phase, Mr. Patterson had recused himself.
Who was an advisor? Who's an advisor? Who was an advisor?
Mr. Siraj, sir.
Presently?
Please let me clarify.
Member Siraj, are you an advisor to the Ministry of Ministry of Local Government? Same thing. So the committee believes it would be prudent for you, therefore, to recuse yourself, sir. Respectfully.
I don't have a difficulty doing that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, members, we have 10 paragraphs before us. 403 to 412. Yes. And I put all 10 paragraphs for consideration. The floor is open, honorable members.
Chair, before you open the floor, I will humbly suggest that when we are presented with these updated schedules, it is indicated as to the paragraphs, because and I'm sure many other members would have examined from 379. So just going forward.
Accepted. Sumaipa.
Honorable members, the floor is open for paragraphs 403 to 412.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have the floor, Honorable Edghill.
Mr. Chairman, could the accounting office, and I'm dealing here with paragraphs 403, 405, and 408, bring us an up-to-date status as it relates to the audit of GWI, where we are, and give us a present-date scenario.
Okay.
PS, Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For Hinterland Water Supply GWI 403, the audit was completed in April 2018. Linden Water Supply, same, the audit was completed in April 2018. And I believe the other one was Urban Sewage and Water, was also completed in April 2018.
So could we get an up-to-date, Mr. Chairman, on paragraph 406, 7, 9, and 10 as it relates to those audited statements as well?
.406 Georgetown Sanitation Improvement Program was completed in March 2017. Water Supply Rehabilitation Linden GWI was completed in November 2016. 409 Water Supply Infrastructure Improvement Program completed in April 2017. Hinterland Sustainable Housing Program, all financial statement January 16 to 2020 was submitted to IDB.
Mr. Chair, let me ask a clarification. If the PS can repeat those dates, because I heard 2016 and 2017 as dates completed.
Are you, Honorable Member, asking for PS to repeat?
Yeah, repeat
reference
because
paragraph 403, 5, and 8.
our last response, sir, was because our first response was that the hinterland was in March 2018.
2017.
Her first response,
November 2016.
Her first response to your first question, which was the hinterland water and the coastal, so they were completed in March 2018. Your subsequent question, I heard
April 2018.
All right, look, honorable members, if I heard correctly,
let her repeat it.
the permanent secretary, the accounting officer indicated in April of 2018 is when the audit was completed for paragraphs 403, 405, and 408. April of 2018. And the next question was reference paragraph 406, 407, 409, and 410. Can you please repeat, accounting officer, for clarity?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. 406 Georgetown Sanitation Improvement Program completed March 2017. Water Supply Rehabilitation Linden completed November 2016. Hinterland Sustainable House Program, all audited financial statements were submitted to IDB.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, honorable member.
I would just like for us to get verification from the clerk that the submissions that were supposed to be made when we examine these previous paragraphs, more particularly as it relates to the Georgetown Restoration Program, was submitted. Because I don't recall seeing that. Because we've jumped to 403, but the Georgetown Restoration Program, in my notes from the last PSC, was an outstanding issue. So, no, 401 and 402.
I am, because of the briefing notes that is before us from the Auditor General's office, notwithstanding the fact that the Public Accounts Committee did consider para 379 to para 402, I am taking into consideration the briefing notes of the Auditor General, and I also would like to pay attention to some of the paras before, where there were information that was supposed to be submitted.
Right. Some of the paragraphs were examined, but they were not closed, awaiting documents.
Agreed.
So I'm just checking to make sure that those documents were submitted, and if they were, if they could be circulated.
Members, I would like to bring to your attention that on the 5th of January 2018, Permanent Secretary and Accounting Officer Emil Magarel wrote to Mr. Isaacs, Sherlock Isaacs, the Clerk of the National Assembly, and permit me to put on record to read the content of that letter. And it states, as requested, the ministry is pleased to forward 25 copies of the updated status of Auditor General's query for the year 2016. Attached is 25 copies of a matrix depicting the updated status, all for your information and guidance. And it includes paragraphs 379, 380, 381, 382, 383, 384, 385, 386, 387, 388, 389, 390, 391, 392, 393, 394, 395, 396, 397, 398, 399, 400, 401, 402, 403, 404, 405, 406, 407, 408, 409, 410, 411, and 412. I will request of the clerk to please circulate this document via soft copy. Okay.
Bring note here, but when you go to the attachment, the answers given do not answer the issues raised by the Auditor General in some cases.
Well, I think it is proper for us to revisit those paragraphs.
Yes.
That we need clarity on.
Right.
Honorable.
Mr. Chair, I'm the very reason that I was a bit surprised that we're starting at 401 instead of 379 is because this document was circulated this last month, rather, when we were supposed to have these ministries coming before us. But Mr. Chair, we cannot just select a few paragraphs to go back to. I don't believe that should be the way. It's either we take into consideration the response in full, which would be from 379, or we just move forward as is, because at the beginning of the examination of this ministry, we said we're starting from 402. 403, sorry.
But considering that there are paragraphs that have not
But
been closed.
but I'm saying, sir, that I'm not saying that those paragraphs were not closed. I'm saying that the consideration of those responses could be dealt with separately.
Mr. Chair, can I support what Madam Director Fernandez said? Yeah, you're on my mind. Right? Because what we previously done, not that we have any problem, what's previously done is that we have on a separate occasion examine the responses, and then if the committee so decides, we could bring them back again. So I think what Francis is saying is more question of style rather than substance. You know what I mean? And so therefore,
honorable members, yeah. I would like for us to agree with what is proposed by Honorable Director in light of what we had done previously. I know previously there were ministries that had to submit clarification, and then we deliberated on it at a separate occasion. So in light of that, I'm forced to agree that we consider para 403 to 412, and at a subsequent meeting, we will look at these responses that came. And if there is any member that does not have the response that came from Mr. Emil Magarel in 2018, 5th of January, they can so indicate, and the clerk will provide a copy.
But may I ask, how would we be having responses for paragraphs 411, 408, 412, as is in that document that was submitted by the PS when they were not examined by the PSC? If they weren't examined, how are we having responses?
Go back to the paragraphs, but 408.
We have started examining this agency at 403 to 412. In that document that you're referring to that I've asked for a copy, you indicated that there are responses to paragraphs from 3-some to something all the way to 412, which is supposing that all of those paragraphs were already examined and the gentleman submitted responses. So in that way, if we follow your logic, there's no need for this group to be here at this time.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Am I correct that there are responses there all the way to 412?
Mr. Chair, the member is absolutely correct. From my reading, what happened is that the Ministry of Communities came here and they presented all their responses, and the previous PSC got to whatever number, 4 something, right? This PSC, as we've done with several other agencies, when they come, they would have previous matters to do. This PSC is looking at 403 to 412. What we did in previous, because the submission that he did was an entirely whole submission. What we did in that event is that we looked separately at what was done by our predecessors, and if it is found wanting, if it is inadequate, if the information was nothing, we would say to the clerk and to the agencies, what you have done is inadequate or unresponsive, etc. Please come at a particular separate date. We did that for the GDF, sir. We did that for several agencies where we took on faith the examination done by our previous PSC, and then we examined everything holistically, because we have to prepare a Treasury memorandum for the entire year, not only for what was started on the previous year, what we concluded.
Okay, so let's bring some clarity to this. All right, honorable members, let's bring some clarity to this. The Ministry of Communities appeared before PAC in the last PAC, and they examined up to paragraphs 402. In that examination, there were some clarity that was necessary. The accounting officer at the time provided the clarity and went on to also provide guidance on the other paragraphs. That is why the document we have before us, dated 5th of January 2018, is the document with the clarity for all the paragraphs. So I believe it is necessary for us to put paragraphs 379 to paragraph 402 for our consideration at a separate meeting, in keeping with how we would have treated the other agencies that came before us. When they had to submit additional information, we considered that, and then we moved forward. And if there was need for us to summon them again, we would do so. So as is, we are examining paragraph 403 to 412. And if there is need for us to bring back the Ministry of Communities to answer on para 379 and 402, after examining them here today from para 403 to 412, should we see the need to bring them back again, we will merge the two and agree on a date. I hope that is clear, Honorable Edgell.
I heard you, sir.
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
Sir,
So-
can I ask a
So
question?
for clarity, we're dealing with paragraph 403 to 412. Go right ahead.
Yes, sir, this is a supplementary to the question asked by Honorable Edgell on 406 to 410. That's why I asked for the accounting officer to repeat them. I am seeing, Auditor General, I'm seeing that the accounting officer said that they would have submitted the audit reports in March of 2017 and November 2016. Right? Your report for 2016 comes out in September 2017. So obviously I'm asking, why is it showing up here? Why is it showing up here? If they are correct that they would have submitted it March and even the year before November, sir, because you are still reporting it as though it's outstanding. It is 406 to 410. So somewhere along the line, 406 to 410, the accounting officer says that they submitted the audit for 406 was done in March 2017. The audit for, I think, the other one, Linden, was done in November 2016. And the IDB ones were done in 2018. So I could understand the IDB ones being on our report, but March 2016, November 2016 and March 2017 should have been captured and struck off or commented on correctly by the audit office.
Before you answer, AG, allow me to inform the committee that we have virtually Dr. Richard Van West Charles, the former CEO of the Guyana Water Incorporated. AG?
Mr. Chair, these are IDB audits. So the audit is done separately. It's not part of the Auditor General report, but because the expenditure is captured in the appropriation account, that is why we report it here. So these audits, all we do is all the IDB audits normally is completed by 30th April, World Bank audit is completed by 30th June. So PS would be correct. I think the one for Linden is because I think the financial statement was up to September for that year. And that is why.
That's not really what I'm asking, sir, because in your report, which comes out in September of 2017, is that right? Our 2016 report came out in September 2017. You have the audit of Guyana Water Inc. and the audit of Linden are currently in progress, but the officer is saying that it was completed by September 2017. So I'm saying so there's a discrepancy between your report and what I'm hearing from the accounting officer. So I was just seeking for the records to get some sort of clarity, because when you by September 2017, your office may or may not have been aware that they've already completed these audits. It should be flagged here. You understand what I'm asking now?
Yes.
Auditor.
I'm just checking back my statement with Guyana.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Honorable Member, the accounting officer is indicating that the audits were completed before September of 2017. But the Auditor General report is saying to us that the audits are in progress and not completed basically. AG?
Sir, there's a discrepancy, and I'm saying it just as a matter that the agency may not have informed the Auditor General or something else. So therefore, I'm just seeking some confirmation before we pass or move on.
Through the chair, at paragraph 379, that's where we have the audit for the entity itself, which is Guyana and Central Housing and Planning Authority. The audit office is the auditor for these entities. So what we would have here would be correct in the sense that the last audit would be in 2015, and the 2016 audit would not have been completed at the time when this report is for GWI nor CHMP.
But I am having a difficulty, AG,
Yeah.
because your report is produced in September of 2017 for the year 2016. Agree?
Correct.
And the accounting officer is indicating to us that the audit for GWI and CHNPA were completed in, if I recollect correctly, the projects, yes.
Right, but there is no mention. If you look at 406, sir, if you permit me, Guyana Sanitation Improvement Program. I'm skipping right. This project is funded by the IDB and is subject to separate financial reporting and audit, right? And you have that you reported it's completed in March 2017, right? Your briefing notes, which we received, no. Right? Makes the suggestion here that they are outstanding. So that's all we're seeking is a question of language and a question of things, because the officer is saying that the IDB projects were done on time beforehand and those things like that. Your briefing notes and your thing are saying that it's outstanding. That's why it's brought here and it's subject to your
Remember, and I think you did already. The audits for 403, 405, 408, according to the record that was provided to this committee, was completed by April of 2018. The Auditor General report would be submitted by September 30th, 2017. The reports for 406, 407, 409, and 410. One was March 2017, November 2016, April 2017, and January 2018, right? So there again, the AG's audit would have been submitted by September 30th, 2016.
No,
2017, sorry. So the March one is, an explanation is required for the March. And because that's the only one that would have fallen on April. The March and the April.
Okay. So what were the ones that were done beforehand? Should they be reflected? You call 4 dates on.
Right.
And you do it for my help, Mike. And of the 4 dates, 3 of them were before September 2017.
No, 2.
Yeah.
4 dates for the 406.
March 2017 and April 2017.
And there's one for November 2016.
Oh yes, there's one for November.
So the 3 dates, so that is what I'm speaking to, not the March 2018. Do you follow me when I'm saying that those should be supposed to be clearly explained because they were done before the September deadline?
So the question would be, did the Ministry of Communities provide this information to the Auditor General in a timely manner?
But more
Mr.
so,
Chair,
yes, AG, go ahead.
these audits here are actually IDB audits. The entity itself is where we captured the paragraph 379. So as I said, the audit for the IDB program for 2016 would be completed sometime by 30th April 2017. So that is why we have the March and April. But if we are talking about the IDB audit, all I'm saying here in my report is that the expenditure for these is captured in the IDB separate audit, not the Auditor General report here. It is captured, and it's not captured on the Guyana proper audit because that's a different audit. So it's two different sets because the IDB audits do not come to part.
But it still holds that the ministry is supposed to submit to your office, right?
No, we are the auditors, so we will have the information,
Okay.
and we audit these financial statements and issue it to the respective PS or accounting officers.
So does that bring clarity to your question,
But
Honorable Patterson?
Honorable Member, I will just clarify the information that the PS given and resubmit it.
Before I take Honorable Teixeira, PS, you wanted to say something?
Oh, no.
Thank you. Honorable Teixeira?
Have, based on the discussion we're having now, if we look at 405, that is clearly public funds. 206 and 207 refer
406.
to 406 and 407 refer to a supplementary provisions in 2016. So these are projects by the IDB, but they go through a parliamentary process of supplementary provision. And therefore it has to be double counted, both in the Auditor General and in the IDB. And therefore the Auditor General, in my mind, is correct to point it out, because this went through the House. Once it goes through as a supplementary, it goes through the House, 99 million, what was the other one, 80-odd million. And therefore, whether the IDB completed his process and said everything was hunky-dory, the issue is he's got to report that these funds, because they went through a supplementary audit paper, financial paper, sorry. I just wanted to clarify that, because we have throughout the report references to foreign funded projects, and they all go through the appropriation system. They all have to go through the appropriation system. They all have to go through the Auditor General. So I don't see it as being, problematical, but certainly the supplementary provisions, and this is where I wanted to ask the Auditor General, in that, just to be absolutely clear, is that the supplementary provision of 88.526 million 406 in 2016, was that IDB funds, or was that government, what you call counterpart funds? That's number one. And in 407, same question. The supplementary provision of 20 million, was that IDB funds, the disbursement, or was it government counterpart funds? Because if you answer yes to both, then there has to be some issue here in terms of making sure that that is easily understood, and that you are satisfied as the Auditor General that the 20 million and the 88 million were satisfactorily accounted for, because that's government money, taxpayers' money, not IDB money. So I just want that clarification on those two, Mr. Sharma, Auditor General.
AG, you have the floor.
Chair, Accountant General.
Accountant General.
I'd like to lend some clarity based on Minister's, what he just proffered. The transaction for foreign capital funding is captured under the appropriation accounts.
Yeah.
And it's treated also, there's a transfer over to capital revenue. That's how it's treated, two dummy transactions. When the project spent, then the amounts are released under appropriation, and that amount is then transferred to capital revenue.
Right.
So it has to be captured in the Auditor General's report.
Right.
Further, in terms of the supplementary, because it states the project was funded by IDB, it is a capital revenue, foreign capital revenue. Okay.
Right. Thank you very much. But I'm going back to, and I don't want, and this is my last thing on.
But before you go, I noticed on the virtual platform that Dr. Panwis Charles has his hands up. So I don't know if he wants to lend some clarity also. Dr. Charles?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, just before Dr. Charles go, I would think that the procedure at the PSC is that the questions are put to the accounting officer, and if the accounting officer needs assistance, she will direct that to the person to help. I would like to know what's happening.
But with all due respect, if we are looking for clarity on a matter that is before us in the year of 2016, and the officer who was the chief executive officer at the time for the company that participated in this project and in the interest of us having clarity, crystal clear, then it is necessary for us to accommodate all forms of information so we could arrive at that clarity and remove all doubts. So with that, Dr. Charles, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairman Mahipol. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say to you that in terms of because GWI is a limited liability company, before the report is sent to IDB, that report was also presented to the board of GWI. And at the same time as the report is being sent to IDB, it is also sent to the Auditor General. We would not send it off to IDB without having a copy sent to the Auditor General because of the points made by Minister Teixeira in terms of the allocations within the national budget, and it must be reflected as such. So maybe the issue is a slight, in terms of the record, when the Auditor General actually received and considered the report. But I want to reassure you that the report going to IDB would never have gone without being presented to the board of GWI and a copy sent at the same time to the Auditor General's office through the Ministry of Communities. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Charles. I trust that brought clarity to the issue.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I am not tied to the issue. I am going back to the Auditor General's report, right? I am very clear on what transpired, but I'm going back to the wording of the Auditor General's report in the sense that you mean that in future reports we can be so guided. Madam Teixeira raised 406 and raised a supplementary provision.
But before you go to that, Honorable Member Patterson, the issue here, if I'm getting you correctly, is that the Auditor General is saying that the audit is in progress. All right, go ahead.
Michael, thank you very much. Thank you for permitting me. I'm reading specifically from the Auditor General's report. I'm quoting verbatim, right? And this is the last 4 lines. The project is funded by the IDB and is subject to separate financial reporting and audit. The ministry's report, the head of budget agency explained that this audit was completed in March 2017 and left there. There's no statement saying that how it was received. There's no statement saying this is correct or whatever it is. You make a it was completed in March, and that is why members are asking questions on it. Secondly, I heard the Auditor General said that he does the audits. So I find it strange that the ministry has to be responding, saying that it was completed in March 2017 when you produced it, sent it to them, and then to the IDB, and it's left very open-ended here. So somebody reading this would say, there's no confirmation and they have to come here. You prepared it, sir, so therefore in March 2017, the ministry doesn't have to respond by saying that, because I'm sure it'll be a bit of putting in the ministry set out, I received your audit in March 2017, if that was their response, as opposed to being, you received it in March 2017, you confirm it for PSC, so we notice it's a statement. That is my query and my point all the while. As well as the other ones, that you prepare the audit, you send it to them, then the ministry, then you have 2407 is the same. The head of budget agency explained this audit was completed in November 2016. The AG, we could simply put another asterisk, the AG confirms receipt of audit, etc., etc. So that is the form and style that I was raising the point at.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, the ministry's response where the head of budget agency explained that the audit was completed in March of 2017, you are saying you're basically requesting that there be an AG's response to say that he is confirming receipt of the report, as opposed to us assuming that he would have received it. AG?
Through the chair, yes. But because I'm the auditor, and I know if they make a statement, I will say no, that's not so because I'm the auditor. And that is why the other part of the statement, I did not state that yes, so or not.
So that is why there's
So
no
it basically is a
recommendation to
statement.
that paragraph.
Right.
So if we are hearing clearly in the Auditor General's report, each paragraph really carries the issue or carries the issue. And after that, you will have a ministry's response, and that will follow with a recommendation. Where there is no recommendation, that simply means that the matter was properly handled. Am I accurate with that? Finance Secretary?
Yes, we have to be very careful when we're reading the reports. So separate statements from queries. And so what we're looking at are statements that require no recommendation, because all the Auditor General is saying is that, look, these projects are being audited by the audited separately under the ID. And the agency just wants us to know that, look, the audits were completed and submitted. So we got to be very careful, right? So that it's not that anything is in dispute here, right?
Mr. Chair, and the reason why I have to comment on it, remember what Ms. Chapman, the Accountant General, is saying. Once you get IDB funds, it's a capital expenditure and a capital revenue, which is the dummy. So it is reported under the ministry as part of their expenditure. So I'm just saying that in respect of this expenditure, I have completed an IDB audit, and if you want details, you go to that IDB.
So you just capture it there as the expenditure.
Right. If not, I will be doing it twice. You audit it under the IDB and then you audit it here in the under the ministry.
Thank you very much, AG. I think that brought clarity to the issue. And I do agree that because there is no recommendation, there is no issue. It's really a statement. So we're still on, the paragraphs are still open. And if I'm accurate, it may take us, having gotten that clarity, to paragraph 412.
I'm at 411, sir.
Go ahead, Honorable Bishop.
And Mr. Chair, just alert, to have a number of questions on 411 and 412. I would be appreciative if we could get these answered before we go after other issues.
Well, 412, I think, is the last paragraph. So.
Right. So 411, the Auditor General in his report made a statement that for the ministry paid, and that's the last paragraph, 1,188,000,000.
Where are we dealing with 411?
Paragraph 411, the bottom, the last sentence.
Go ahead.
Further, the ministry paid 1,188,000,000 by 3 interdepartmental warrants to a contractor after settlement negotiations was done by the Ministry of Legal Affairs. In the response that is stated, ministry's response, the head of the budget agency explained that the settlement negotiation was done by the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Monies were warranted to the ministry where payments were made. For clarification, I'm just seeking to be clear before I proceed. The monies that were eventually paid to the contractor was paid to the Ministry of Legal Affairs?
Accounting officer, you have the floor.
Thank you. According to our register, 3 payments were warranted to legal affairs, and there is no other record at the ministry that we were able to locate to indicate what happened after that, if the work was completed and if these payments were made. With your permission, sir, we can ask the previous PS if he can provide some light, shed some light on this.
All right. But just now, Honorable Member, Mr. Edgell, we do have the former
Yes.
PS online. So I would prefer us clarifying your first question.
I would like to proceed and the PS can come in as we go.
So you don't want us to clarify this first question?
I've already gotten the answer that the money was paid to the Ministry of Legal Affairs.
No, but I can't allow that to go because the current PS is saying after examining her records. Now we have the former PS here who I think can provide greater clarity. And I would like to give him the floor to provide the greater clarity.
Well,
and then we can
why
proceed.
are you preempting my question, Mr. Chairman?
No, I'm not preempting your question. I would just like to have a solid answer to your first question. The answer that was provided, honorable members, the answer that was provided by the permanent secretary, accounting officer, current, is based on what she found. I know that the practice has always been that there is an interaction between the former PS and the current PS. They would meet, and that has always been the practice. So I would like to give to the floor the former PS to provide us with further clarity. Mr. Magarel, you have the floor.
What did you do to my chair? Did you dismiss it?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the PAC. Kindly confirm you're hearing me clearly.
Yes, sir, we're hearing you loud and clear.
Thank you very much. My PS call, I have no different response from the current accounting officer. The money was indeed wired to the Ministry of Legal Affairs as stated in the Auditor General report. And the Ministry of Legal Affairs concluded the matter. And it was not a project for an execution of an activity, as it stated, it was a settlement of a matter, a court matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, former PS. Honorable Edgell, you now have the floor.
Could the accounting officer provide PSC with copies of this court matter that would have led to this payment? Both the application and the judgment, or the agreed settlement, signed settlement agreement.
Accounting officer.
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, despite our best efforts, we could not locate any documents to honor this request. Perhaps I can, again, with your permission, ask PS Magaro, previous PS, if he can direct me to where I can find such information.
But let me ask something to clarify this. Did your office and the former PS meet and agreed on, because I'm sure you are aware that these are the paragraphs that we were going to examine. And these are matters where you prepare for. Can I ask if there was a meeting or a caucus or something of the sort with the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development and the former PS so as to provide these kinds of clarity?
Mr. Chairman, in preparing for this meeting, I have taken a few steps. First step is I've tried to locate the document at the ministry. They cannot be located. I had brief discussion with the former PS, and in the discussion, he indicated that the situation remained the same, basically, as he just said.
So did you ask him for the documents and so where you could find it and so on, as opposed to asking it here?
He did indicate that they were left at the ministry, but both myself and my staff, the auditor that was working with him in preparation for these, we could not locate them, sir.
So former PS, do you have anything to say to that?
Mr. Chairman, if I may indicate it, I I've had not had a chance to collaborate, coordinate these responses as that can be done, that ought to be done for the PAC's work. The issue related to the question on where the documentations can rightly be accessed at the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and I think that the Legal Affairs can be approached for those documents. I don't know if that was done. At the time, the information that was provided for the ministry, all the necessary authorization for the transaction to be done were satisfied. Otherwise, in the internal department warrant would not have been issued. And as the matter was being settled at the Legal Affairs, and the request was the authority to do so was based upon that request that came to the ministry. I have not had a chance to review documents to see where the issues are that may have necessarily clarify for the PAC the kind of questions that are coming out. But notwithstanding on this particular matter, approaching the Ministry of Legal Affairs should be able to have all that information provided too for the PAC.
Thank you very much,
Mr.
former
Chairman,
PS. I believe that with reference to Bishop Edgell, honorable member's question, that the current accounting officer needs to provide the clarity, and in keeping with what was said by the former PS, I believe it is also necessary for the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development to request information from the Ministry of Legal Affairs pertaining to this paragraph and in keeping with the question, because we have to, as requested, we would like to see the documents. Honorable Member Edgell, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I would like to remind PAC that this matter came to the House by way of a supplementary provision. And the issue of this payment was subject to questionings in the House. And it is of great concern that up until now, even though the then Attorney General said that there were documents, it has not yet been provided to the PAC, and the former PS of this ministry is aware that these documents were being requested. My next question is, how could the accounting officer indicate to a PAC, how can a ministry that engages the services of a contractor, when a dispute arises, even if the help of the Attorney General Chambers is sought, the payment for the settlement is not made to the contractor by the ministry, but it is made to another ministry.
Let us allow the Honorable Edgell to finish.
I'm asking a simple question.
After Honorable Edgell, we will entertain Honorable Gail Teixeira, followed by Honorable David Patterson. And with all due respect, Honorable Teixeira had her hands up a long time.
Mr. Chair, I said I have a number of questions and I would like to get them going. The Ministry of Communities engaged a contractor, signed contract between the ministry and a contractor. And as I understand it, this is the Higgs-Bush operation, because it came to the Parliament, not a private matter. This is a settlement because of some dispute. First of all, where there is a court case. We said in the House there was no court case. Up until now, no documents are provided. But I am concerned that an interdepartmental warrant is made to settle with a contractor to be paid by the Ministry of Legal Affairs to the contractor when the contractor was engaged by the Ministry of Communities. Even if the Attorney General played a role in the negotiation of a settlement, the contract was not with the Attorney General's chambers and the contractor. The contract was with the Ministry of Communities and the contractor. And I would like to know on what premise, what law, what section of the FMAA allowed for that? On what authority was this done? Could you explain that to PSC?
Mr. Chair, thank you for
PS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, Honorable Member, the only information that I can provide is what is available in the public, which is just as you said. I will not be able to provide that background information at this time. I will again, with your permission, Mr. Chair, ask if Mr. Magarel can answer that, sir.
Mr. Magarel?
Mr. Chairman, the honorable member's question goes to the authority for that payment to be made, and he requested citation of authority in regulation or in law. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that the current accounting officer, who I'm fully available to assist in this process with regards to this matter, can be able to provide that answer specifically. But I observe that an interdepartmental warrant payment could not have been made unless those statutory requirements were satisfied. One, and from my experience and recollection, payments with respect to judgments regarding court matters are handled by the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Further, the matter predated the existence of a Ministry of Communities in 2017, and it's obviously therefore it's a matter that's coming over that was being resolved, and it came to the place where it was a dispute that had been addressed before the court. And as the matter came up, a resolution was made by the government and the authorities were provided for the payment.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask the Accountant General to confirm to PSC that there is
Honorable Member Edgil.
Yes.
Right after the former PS answered, I would like to tell him thank you for his answer.
Yes.
And then I would like to give the floor to another member,
but I did
which includes yourself. But the point I'm making is that right after you ask your question, I want to say to the accounting officer that you have the floor,
proceed.
After which I will say thank you, and then I give back the floor to the member who's asking or to another member. And I would like you to acknowledge that Mr. Patterson, honorable member, is asking for a follow-up to that very question that you asked.
Mr. Chairman, I will respectfully
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I will respectfully ask that Mr. Patterson holds his questions until he gets the floor. I did say when I started this paragraph, I have a number of questions that I would like to answer. Mr. Patterson is free to ask his supplementary comment. I would like us to change the
Honorable Member Edgil, I understand that you said you have a number of questions, and I'm not disputing that. But on the same paragraph and in the same angle that you're going down with your question, there are other members that would like to have
I won't be long. Could I be allowed to ask my question? I
am going to ask for Mr. Patterson to make his intervention with his question, after which I am going to ask Honorable Gail Teixeira to make her intervention, and I'm going to come back to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to put this will be to the accounting officer as well as our technical advisors. When there is a court matter against a ministry, what is the process? Which ministry looks at that? When there is a judgment, a settlement, a payment, or whatever, who are the ministers, who are the legal authorities to arrive at that? I mean, very using that word very loosely. And then if a payment has to be made to based on the judgment, negotiation, whatever it is, who are the legal authorities to make such payments? I'm asking,
Before we get to know legal.
I'm asking we're examining here, right? We're examining a method. I'm asking a question that actually a protection that the accounting officers, both of them current and past, said so that because the procedure, if you can correct me if I correctly, when a case is filed, the Attorney General takes over the legal affairs or whichever branch takes over. And then when that is, and then of course, when that reaches a conclusion, however it is, monies are paid by legal affairs. So I need that clarified for the record because that I know is the process, should be the process, but I like to know who, one of you to clarify what is the process that you follow or all the ministries follow when there's a legal case against a ministry, irrespective of who entered into the contract. So I don't know who will answer that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
To the chair.
Honorable AG, Accountant General, you have the floor.
For all judgment cases, legal judgment cases, it's paid to the Ministry of Legal Affairs. In cases where the funds are voted on the respective ministry, like in the case of Ministry of Communities, a warrant is issued to the Ministry of Legal Affairs to execute that payment on their behalf from the Ministry of Communities to the Ministry of Legal Affairs to execute the payment.
No, I want you to, sorry, just for my edification. Okay. The Ministry of Finance issues a warrant to
the Ministry of Legal Affairs. In this case, it's legal affairs, not communities.
So you issue a warrant to communities, the communities into bank, right? Yeah. So I just wanted to. So you all release the money.
That's correct.
So they made a supplementary to Ministry of Communities.
Ministry of Communities.
And they warrant it over
to the Ministry of Legal Affairs.
And they play no part in the legal process.
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, AG. Honorable
Mr. Chair, just a simple clarification for the Attorney General, for the Accountant General. There is a budget line, just for to clarify, there's a budget line to deal with judgments. Judgments of a court. Judgments. And I emphasize again, judgments. The budget line, if the Ministry of Communities goes to court, you lose the case, you have to pay. There's a budget line where monies have to go into to be paid from. It is true that interdepartmental warrants, you send the money for the judgment, for judgments to be paid. I am asking this PAC to get documentation to show that there was proper authority, that there was a case, and that there was judgment.
And I'm agreeing with you, Honorable Member. I am agreeing with you that you have made a request for documentation. It was sent to us by the accounting officer of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, in fact, the former accounting officer, that the Ministry of Legal Affairs is supposed to be in possession of those documents. And I have also said to the current accounting officer that there is need for her to request the documents and furnish it or provide it to the Public Accounts Committee. I thought we went past that already.
I'll make a simple request. I'll reserve my rest of questions and I yield the floor, but I'd like this paragraph to remain open until those documents are furnished.
And I
reserve my question.
And I agree with that request, and it is so granted.
Mr. Chair, please allow me, because I don't want no one to be misguided, right? That payments from legal affairs are not only judgment, and I just went on to Google and I found at least 3 settlements made under the PPP administration. Settlements, out of court settlement, you made the case and it's out of court. So I don't want PAC and the public to think that only a court judgment can be paid by legal affairs. And I would like the technical officers to confirm or not. Sir, because the impression being given is that judgments alone are only payable by the Ministry of Legal Affairs.
Can we have that clarity, Accountant General?
To the chair, yeah, not only judgment, there may be in some cases compensation, and that's paid also to the Ministry of Finance as well, as Member Edgil mentioned. That line and the funds that are voted, it's under the Ministry of Finance. So
Thank you.
some funds are voted on the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and some of it, and the others are voted on the Ministry of Finance.
So, good. Thank you very much, Accountant General. So the paragraph will be left open, and the request for the information from the Permanent Secretary, Accounting Officer of Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development will be provided to us. So, Accounting Officer, can you indicate how long you would need to provide us with that information? Would a week suffice?
Mr. Chair, before you ask
Some
that.
of us get a chance to speak.
No, I just wanted to find out what is it? What do you mean when you leave a paragraph open?
It's still under consideration.
I'm accustomed to speak.
So, of course, it will require the ministry to return to answer more questions, which will flow from the documents that are provided to us. So, and just for clarity, I will ask Honorable Edgil to repeat, because I don't want us to miss it. What are the documents that you are requesting the PS furnish us with?
Number one, the application to the court, which will be the claimant applying to the court, evidence that this matter was heard, even if it's one time, evidence of a negotiated settlement, and based upon those evidence of the court filing, the judgment or settlement agreement, the basis of the authority and justification by way of a document to inform an interdepartmental warrant. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Bishop Edgil. So, PS, just for clarity, these information, you have to request them from the Ministry of Legal Affairs. I didn't hear you, PS.
Yes, I have that understanding, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, PS. Honorable Teixeira, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have a number of concerns about this paragraph. 411, we're still on that. It starts out talking about a Hagbosh landfill as an IDB project with separate accounting. It goes on then to talk about appropriation amount as of the end of December 2015. And then suddenly it switches to 1.188 billion via 3 interdepartmental warrants to a contractor after settlement negotiations was done by Ministry of Legal Affairs. Now, the problem I'm having is everything is a mishmash between what was IDB funds, what was government counterpart funds, and what the negotiations, which have nothing to do with the IDB. This is from taxpayers' money. But the other problem with the paragraph, so the paragraph to me is very jumbled. It doesn't make distinctions between what is foreign funded, not foreign funded. It has a 47.45 million remains unspent, and it appears to be hanging there if it's returned to the consol fund or whatever. But then we have the 1.188 billion. Now, I would like the PS, either PS, to tell me, to my memory, in 2016, I think it's July, there was a supplementary financial paper for $500 million for BK Tiwari in regards to the Hag-Bosch case. I'm reading what was in the supplementary financial paper, and that's a public document. In 2017, we have called contractors right in this parliament. We have
Honorable members.
BK International, I stand correct. I think everybody knows what I'm
Honorable
talking about.
members, please.
Can I continue?
Kindly, please be cognizant of the fact that we are streaming live.
No, it's okay.
And
I
I'm
just didn't
asking
realize there
for
was
us to have.
for me, it
I'm
means the same
asking-
thing. So I apologize, BK International, but you don't know
Honorable
what
member,
it is.
Mr. Shearer,
Yes, sir.
may I please complete my
I know what
statement?
you're talking about. I made a mistake.
Honorable members.
You have to flag out.
Honorable members, Mr. Patterson and Mr. Edgill, please, can we please return to some degree of normalcy?
Every time I
Mr.
speak, it
Shearer,
causes problem.
Honorable Member Teixeira, thank you for correcting. Thank you
To me, that's the
for.
name of the company. I didn't make a
Honorable
mistake.
Member Teixeira,
But I'm
thank
human.
you very much for withdrawing the wrong name and correcting it.
Yeah, BK is the wrong one. It's BK International. My apologies.
Thank you. You may
Now,
proceed.
as I said, 2016, there was a supplementary financial paper in July for over $500 million to a company in regards to Hag-Bosch. 2017, the budget 2017 had another $500 million. And then a supplementary financial paper in 2017, again, for the same purpose. This is a company that under the IDB was terminated in 2014, I believe. And the company went to the court, not the government took the company to the court. The case was never heard, and that the negotiations took place. Now, my question is that there were 3 interdepartmental warrants. I have no doubt about that. However, if my memory is correct, this is the 2016 audit report. But this is only one payment was paid in 2016, according to the financial supplementary paper that came to the House in 2016, July, where it was said in the House that the second and balance of payments would be paid in the budget of 2017. So I don't know if in the records that the Auditor General is referring to, all 3 interdepartmental warrants were paid in 2016, which would be a problem because the money was never warranted, or all the money wasn't warranted until 2017. So that's one issue. The second issue is that because the way the paragraph is written as if this is IDB money, this $1.188 billion was not IDB money. This was taxpayers' money. And so I'm saying to the Auditor General, the way this paragraph is written, it is very jumbled, and you have to segregate out what is foreign funded money, what was taxpayers' money, and what is the case that was heard. And I find it very interesting that this issue went to negotiations without any stress or determination by any forces, government or the IDB, to pay this company. So I'm interested in the cabinet decision, which had to be issued in June 2016 to allow for $500 million to be brought to this House in a supplementary financial paper. That's number one. So there should be a cabinet paper in 2016 brought by whom? Maybe the Ministry of Communities, by the Ministry of Legal Affairs, who knows, to compensate or to settle with the company. Because under our standing orders and our laws, no warranting of money can be done without the express approval of cabinet. It cannot be brought to the House without that. So one, there must have been a cabinet decision in 2016 agreeing to the first $500 million to go into a supplementary financial paper that came into this House in 2016. Secondly, in the 2017 budget, that had to be a cabinet approval as well. So that these payments were approved by cabinet. And therefore, there must be cabinet records that the cabinet agreed. The Minister of Legal Affairs cannot on his own go and settle and pay a company. Cannot. He must have cabinet coverage and authority. So in addition to the request made to the permanent secretary, I would like a request to be made for the cabinet record of the approval given for the settlement, the supplementary financial payment, and the payment for the company.
Thank you very much, Honorable Teixeira. P.S. Earlier there was the request, and I did ask if 1 week will suffice. I'm not sure if you accepted that 1 week is sufficient. Can you indicate, please? That is for the earlier request with what Honorable Bishop Edghill was speaking to.
Mr. Chair, I will write today when I leave this meeting, and I will provide an update within a week.
Within a week, you will provide a. Now,
Mr. Chairman.
Hold on. In keeping with Honorable Teixeira's request, the cabinet record pertaining to this matter, will 1 week also suffice?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to what.
Honorable Datadin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could just add to what Honorable Bishop said earlier in documents, so that we don't be going back and forth. He had asked for the legal documents in any court proceedings. Could I ask for, if there was a meeting, the minutes of any meeting that was had, and if there was a settlement, the settlement contract that was concluded? Just those.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable, but before I go, P.S., there is another request there. What I would say is that in addition to these requests that are being made, if you find any other documentation that is necessary to provide all the clarity with reference to this paragraph, I will appreciate if it can be made available so that we can bring closure to this paragraph. And if and you did indicate the 1 week is the time that you will provide it with. Honorable Patterson.
Mr. Chair, I must sort of express my frustration, because obviously Madam Teixeira and Member Edghill, my apologies, Member Datadin has asked for information. I would like to add some information, but you started summarizing.
No. I was just ensuring, if I may just clarify, I was just ensuring that each member that made the request, that the permanent secretary accounting officer is clear as to what are the information to be provided. And I'm now coming to you, Honorable Member, for your input, and if you have requests also.
Right. Sir, I would like to be, because of course, we can't pick up the button at the end of the relay. So I would like to, one, ask the permanent secretary, including our submission, the details of the contract which was signed in November 2009 with the company, Ministry of Local Government. I would also ask her to investigate in our records that the then cabinet under the government between 2009 and 2015, right, approved a settlement, an agreement, and I would like that they approved an agreement in Aid Murmur between the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Public Government.
All right, let's allow the honorable member, please. Honorable Member Patterson, you have the floor.
Right, so I'm asking for and this is an MOU dated between the two parties of August 2013. I like them, the Accountant General, the auditing.
Accounting
office to provide us with that. This is the MOU between the Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Finance, and the government. And there was an amendment prepared by then cabinet, right? Which revised the terms of the proposed to revise the terms of the agreement. And that, sir, that ma'am was issued in August of 2013. Right? And then sir, ma'am, also that the illegal proceedings was filed in March. Legal proceedings were filed on March the 15th, March the 13th of 2015. Right? Against the company. I also like to ask the accounting officer to also tell us or provide what was the effect of the legal proceedings if the Hague's watch would had to be closed, suspended operations there, if the Georgetown City Council was deprived of using that during this period. That yes, if you know that as well, I would.
Honorable Edgell, the floor is not yours. Honorable Patterson, you have the floor. So thank you. So, sir, I would like the accounting officer not only to talk about the judgment, talk about the previous cabinet aid memoir and MOU that was that. Yes, that was done. The amounts of money proposed as a settlement in that cabinet document of was it March or August of 2013. So when we examine this matter, we will have all the facts in front of us, sir, because the facts are, sir, that they made payments, they entered in a contract, there were disputes, they went to court, they proposed a settlement, which I do suspect was, I don't know, and it was not agreed. Hence the court case. Hence the intervention of the Ministry of Legal Affairs in 2015. So all of that, sir, I would like to place here so we could have a holistic. Thank you very much, Honorable Member Patterson. I would like to believe that the Permanent Secretary and Accounting Officer of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development understands clearly what is it that is requested of her in terms of the documentation for the Public Accounts Committee. Accounting Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everything prior to Honorable Patterson request I have, and I will ask if I can have an additional a week because they have been added more to what was, and there's a holiday this week as well. However, on Thursday, if I can ask Mr. Patterson to kindly go that over because I can't find it anywhere in the report, specifically what you're asking for. I don't know if that can be captured in a note or something to me, because quite a lot of requests you've made there.
There is, I'm asking for there's a contract, which was done was signed 20th of November 2009. That is a contract between local government, Ministry of Local Government, and it was BK International Poor and Brothers Disposal Limited as a joint venture. There was a dispute, and there was a dispute, and on August, I don't have the date, but I know it's August 2013. There was an agreement between the Ministry of Local Government and the contractor, right? Which provided for a settlement, exactly what was done there. And in that settlement, obviously, there's a revised tariff per ton, and it was equated out to a number. Right, there was a cabinet decision agreeing the settlement, and this is in August 2013, sir. So you don't only bring the cabinet decision approving the settlement in 2015, I want the ones in 2013, 2014. Right, hold on a second. And also, right, and then of course now the honorable member mentioned that there's a court matter that came on the court. The company filed a motion on the 13th of March of 2015. I'm not going to try and pronounce the Latin names in here before I bite my tongue, but honorable member that they knows exactly what it is. I can show him. And then his contract was terminated on March the 15th after the court case. I would like to have that there as well in the records, because the contractor filed a claim, then the termination. I suppose what Madam Chair is trying to imply that you were terminated and then he filed a claim. He filed a claim on March the 13th and a notice of termination or intent to terminate was provided on March the 18th. So can we have those records? I do. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, the cabinet decision would be 2016 5.3.x if you so need it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any further questions on this paragraph, but I would just like to make a comment. We're examining the 2016 Auditor General report, and the subject under consideration here is the payment of $1,188,000,000 as a settlement in 2016. There were Auditor General reports of 2013, 2014, 2015. I have no difficulty with the requests of the Honorable Member, Mr. Patterson, but I don't ever want us to obfuscate the issue here. We are questioning a settlement agreement that is recorded in the 2016 Auditor General's report. All of the items that went before was subject to audit. All was subject to audit, a yearly audit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Edgil.
Mr. Chairman, please let me conclude. I would like to have the same latitude that you give to the Honorable Member Patterson, the same latitude I would like to have. I would like us to be very balanced in this committee.
Thank you.
I know you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you very much, yes. Comrade Edgil.
Yes,
and I'm
sir.
happy that you indicated that you have no issue with the requests
But
that
I'd like
were
to finish.
made. Oh, you did not?
No, I'm not finished. I'm not finished.
I thought you were. Go ahead.
So I would also want to have an intervention from the Auditor General. He did say earlier, contracts by the IDB and foreign donor agencies are subject to different audits. The Higgs-Bosch landfill or solid waste program, of which Mr. Jilt is very familiar with, because as Minister I dealt with this matter, was an IDB funded program. The query in this document of the $1,188,000,000 is not a payment from the IDB contracted sum. As per a contract, this is $1,188,000,000 of taxpayers' money outside of an IDB contract that came to this parliament by way of a supplementary from local funds. And that is why we're asking the documents. Previous date, every payment that was made on that contract was based upon an IDB funded program with no objections from the IDB bank. We are dealing here with a payment outside of IDB funding from the consolidated fund. So we don't want the two issues to be mixed up. And that's why Comrade Gale's, Minister Teixeira's position of the separation of what was IDB funded and what is local is very pertinent to this discussion. And I don't want the issues to be obfuscated.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick follow-up. The honorable member just reminded me I would like another piece of document, right? In December 2013, the IDB suspended all disbursement on this contract. Can we have a copy of why and how they did? He just reminded, I wasn't going to ask, so that we could have clear separations, right? That would have clear separation, and then the subsequent settlements that would have been offered and made and approved by the cabinet included. So therefore, thank you very much for reminding me that the IDB set out they won't touch it in December 2017. It's the December 2013, the Ministry of Finance was informed by the IDB of its decision to spend all disbursements on this contract. I'd be grateful if that can be provided as well, including the reason. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, honorable members. Thank you very much, Honorable Member Teixeira, Honorable Member Edgell, Honorable Member Patterson. Accounting Officer, I believe that you have asked for an addition. Honorable members, I'm on the floor. I believe you have asked for an additional week, which will make it 2 weeks. So your reply is expected within 2 weeks. And I believe given the reply and the documentation you will send, it will require you to appear again at PAC in 2 weeks' time. Honorable members, we have paragraph 412, but I have taken note of the time, and we do have a number of officers who are here with us and were here with us from the beginning. So I am going to suggest that we take lunch for half an hour. Now is 1:30. We will return at 2 p.m. to continue with paragraph 412. Yes, Mr. Edgell did indicate that he has a number of questions, and in light of him having a number of questions, and I know that people will like to take their lunch, and considering lunch was supposed to be at 12, we are going to break for lunch now and return at 2 p.m. to consider paragraph 412. Thank you very much.